And we need all the creativity and all the creative thinking we can get right now when we're facing multiple global crises. So without the ability to slow down, to be receptive, I don't think we're going to be able to come up with the creative solutions that we need. We need the best engineering, we need the best medicine, and we also need the best liberal arts. Okay, so that's the first part of my talk, the longer part. And I think you can see that what I'm trying to suggest is that we're at this very interesting point where these two threads, where we're standing in a very interesting relationship to these two inheritances. We're in a position to see that the ancient Greeks were onto something that we're trying to recover, rediscover, and recreate for the modern age. And we have more of an ability to even understand it because many of us alive today have begun some of those very practices. At the same time, we're beginning to see that the methods, the more, faster, better, crank the machine ever faster, is in danger of killing us and killing our creativity and a whole dimension of our humanity. So we know something of what it's going to take to reorient the machine, right at a point where we desperately need new ways of working and teaching and learning. So how lucky we are. That's part one. What I want to do then, just to talk about the future for a few minutes, is to talk specifically about the technologies. I mean, we can all recognize that all of our information technologies, I mean, we wouldn't have access to ancient Greek and Roman philosophy, or to much of science, or to world literature, if it weren't for the sake of scribal technologies, practices that I studied in England, if it weren't for the printing press, and if it weren't for the new digital technology. These are extraordinarily powerful and important tools for allowing us to connect with the past and to imagine and invent the future. But at the same time, as we all know, the newest technologies are causing forms of distraction and disorientation on a scale that I think we human beings have never seen before. And we're seeing in contemporary higher education both sides of this. And the question is, how do we move forward? Because we're not going to throw out the new technologies, and we don't particularly probably want to. But on the other hand, what are we going to do about our students who can't seem to get off texting or Facebook, and who, as I've been discovering at Amherst and at a number of other colleges where I speak to undergraduates, where they recognize that there's a problem too. And that's a really important thing to understand, that it's not the cultural story that we have now, which says, well, the digital natives have no problem because they grew up with it, and it's we, the old fogies, are having a problem. It's not true. And we haven't begun those conversations with them. But I think that's where some of the real growth and understanding is going to happen. So what's going on with these technologies? Well, fundamentally, I think all of our information and communication technologies are essentially means of augmenting our attentional capacity. Right? I mean, if you think about it, as human beings, first and foremost, we're able to be sensorily connected to what's in our immediate environment, what's right here. But from writing and pebble counting onto the printing press and onto these new digital technologies and television and radio and all of that, what these technologies are fundamentally about is the ability to direct the attention to something that is distant in space or time. It's an extraordinary human accomplishment to augment human attention in these ways. So it's a great, great thing. The challenge and the problem has come, I believe, because this remarkable capacity has been linked with our more, faster, better philosophy, which is trying to sell us more and more, which is advertising and so on, which is so that we have so much calling our attention that we no longer have clear strategies for how to orient ourselves. So it's actually the dark or the downside of the very powerful, important, and exciting capacity of these technologies to orient our attention. That is also the problem, brought as characterized by this new philosophy. So what I want to end on is just suggesting 3 directions that I think we can move. How are we going to apply our best head, heart, and hands to orient these very powerful, meaningful technologies in the service of what we know to be the kind of growth in human transformation? Well, one general direction I want to suggest is social change. These technologies have done an extraordinary job of breaking down old boundaries of space and time. That's in a sense their purpose. But as we know, we're losing the boundary between work and leisure, between the workplace and the home, between the work week and the weekend. We need to find ways to reconstruct and rebuild boundaries. Just because the technologies have allowed us to knock them all down doesn't mean that as human beings and as a culture that we don't have the right or the ability to create new boundaries. There are questions about Sabbath time. This is something I talk with my students about. For some people, it's a traditional 1 day a week. It can be time away every day from the technologies. And I've found students who are already doing this kind of thing. But how do we socially talk about, we don't have to call it Sabbath time, but whatever we want to call it. By the way, there is work being done in the corporate world. Nathan Zeldis at Intel in Israel has done experiments with engineers in Intel that he calls quiet time. You sort of imagine the blankets and the cookies and all that. And he actually has evidence that productivity, the god of productivity, has actually been appeased by this, which is a good thing because it wouldn't fly otherwise. And I also think that we have work to do in the creation of additional contemplative spaces. Our bodies are so attuned to the natural world and also to our built spaces that more conscious attention to the way we build and construct where we spend our time can also be a reminder. The second general direction, so the first one is social change. The second direction is technological change. You know, as a technologist, I can tell you that there is basically nowhere in the world today where computer scientists or information technologists or designers are given any real instructions about what to design for other than productivity and efficiency. That's what we teach people. So I was really surprised and pleased to discover, as I was Googling around at one point, to discover that a designer in San Francisco who had watched my talk, No Time to Think, at Google, had actually written a very interesting blog entry, which I'll read you just one paragraph from, where she says, so she starts off by essentially paraphrasing what I had said in that talk. Creative thought can't be rushed, but it can be nurtured. Then she says, so how can we nurture creative thought? Much of the work we do, and her company's name is Cooper, at Cooper involves designing tools to increase productivity and efficiency, to help people do more, faster, and keep them moving. But are we in danger of making things too fast and efficient, preventing people from spending enough time with the information they need to consider carefully? Bingo! Our students are really smart and really interested. And there's a whole realm of teaching to be done to begin to instruct the people who will be our future designers to recognize that speed and efficiency are not the only metrics. The third direction that I want to mention, the last of the three, along with social change and technological change, is personal change, something we all know something about. And the question is, regardless of whether or not we institute new modes and new boundaries and new Sabbath time or our technologies, whether or not they are designed for a fuller life or not, we, in our own lives, have the ability to transform ourselves in order to engage in more mindful ways with the technologies.